Life is not about getting and having. It's about giving and being. That is a very deep thought for you to think about. And because it's so deep, today I want to talk about it. Let's go.
Like diamonds, I'm watching how you glow.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy AJ here, coming through your TV screen, your phone screen, your laptop screen, and beyond. How you bloody doing, mate? I love you. You see the heart? I love you. Life is not about getting and having. It's about being and giving. Have you ever thought about that? I mean, like, what life is about. We live in this very complex world where nothing is what it actually seems. We live in this complex world where we're told to do one thing, but we're meant to do another. We're living in this world where you can't even have the luxury of contemplating something for too long because time waits for no man. It's a very complex, intriguing, unfair, but yet beautiful process. I'm posing this question to you because now that I think about it, the statement I said in the beginning of the intro is very much true. Life is not about having and getting. It's about giving and being. Have you ever heard the term, what you give is what you get? Have you ever heard that term? Have you ever heard the term, what goes around comes around? Have you ever heard the term, what you put in is what you get out? So, if you constantly take, never giving, if you constantly receive and have, but never give or put back, curious to know what you think the cycle of life will become eventually. You see, when you put in, what you put in is what you're going to get out. So if life for you is about taking, having, possessing things, how long do you think it's going to last before your materialisticness, if that's even a word, becomes a dangerous problem to you? Always having to have the latest this, the latest that, the most expensive this, the most expensive that. Always having to be in that space can be a very addictive thing. Being materialistic can be a very addictive thing. Now, if you are that kind of person, this is not the video where I judge you at all. If that's you, that's you. To each his own. I'm speaking to the person that is trying to figure out what life is about. The people who are materialistic have already figured out what their life is about. I'm speaking to the gal or guy that is curious as I am and trying to figure this process out. Life is very much about giving and not getting. Because what you give is what you get. Does that make sense? So if you constantly keep taking and getting, there will be nothing left for you to get eventually. And then what do you do at that point where you're in the space where you can't have anything? More so, have anything that you want. I want to dissect your chain of thought. I want to get in between your processes of how you think about things. Life is very much about giving and not getting. Because what you give is what you get. So if you give nothing and constantly take, what exactly do you think is going to happen eventually? Now, why I'm so excited about this statement is because when I came across it, it put me in a place of really deep thought, because I for one thought to myself, how can life be about giving if you're someone like me who grew up in poverty and have nothing to give? There's like a contrasting reality of what is expected of you and the actual reality of what is you. So, for example, my life is surrounded by poverty in my childhood. It was something that defined my childhood. It was something that defined my teenage years. I grew up in a third world country. So, understanding those circumstances, my first question when coming up on this topic was, how do you give having nothing to give? And then I go back to the statement I said prior. What you give is what you receive. So if you even have a dime and you give that dime, there's a process called reciprocation. And that dime will reciprocate. The act of giving that dime will reciprocate and multiply. And what you get in return for giving whilst having nothing to give will make you actually giving way more worth it, because what you will receive on the other end of giving is going to be multiplied 10 times fold. How do I actually know this? It's because I've lived it. I've always been a very kind person. I always try to help people when I can. Don't take my kindness for weakness, because I'm not stupid. I am also the kind of person that gives people enough rope to hang themselves. So I don't give blindly, but I do give, and I do contribute, and I do help when I can. And let me be blunt, my entire childhood I had nothing to give. I had nothing to help with. But yet, I surprisingly try to find it in myself to spread that kind of thing. Trying to help, trying to give. When we go back to the beginning, and I said, what you give is what you get, I'm now in a position where I can host a talk show on social media. I'm now in a first world country living a life that is 1,000 times better than my childhood. You ask me, what do you get when you give whilst having nothing to give? I have a car that I own. I have a house that I own. These are things that millions upon millions of people can't even fathom having, because they have no path to get it. But here I am talking to you on a screen saying giving is more than getting, because what you give is what you get. Does that make sense? Try your best to dissect everything that I just said, because there are those of us who will think what I'm saying is not making sense. And if it's not making sense to you, it's because you're not actually dissecting your life the way you ought to. We're checking in with each other. Just sit down and think about it. All the times you've actually mustered up the strength to give something in some way, shape, or form. Think about what you have gotten and what life has given you in return. And then this statement will make sense. Life is not about having or getting, it's about being and giving. Being in the moment and understanding the realities you face as you face them. Understanding that even though I'm in this position and that person is in that position, and that position is probably 1,000 times worse than this position, am I in a quote unquote position now to actually help even though I have a bad position myself? Maybe me helping them in their position will help me get out of mine. Have you ever thought of that? Just, I'm trying to dissect your process of thinking. Life is not about having or getting or even taking, which a lot of us love to do. But it's about being and giving and or sharing. Just something for you to think about. A thought for you to dissect. It's a very interesting topic for us to talk about. I've spent a good little while on that statement, thinking about it, trying to dissect whether it's really factual or not. Because when I bring this to you, I want it to actually make sense. And then I thought to myself, it doesn't even make sense. I actually lived it. It more than makes sense. Life is not about having and taking or even possessing. It's about giving, being, sharing. With that being said, with that being understood, it's your boy AJ. I love you. You hear me? I love you endlessly. With that being said, with that being understood, it's your boy AJ, and I'm signing out.